time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Hey! Happy Mardi Gras! Woo!
Russell Dobular live from Mardi Gras. It is Fat Tuesday in the Big EZ. And Russell and I will be doing the show just like this for the next 2.5 hours.
Hang on. I gotta go out. I can't hear you.
All right, let's go to segment number 1. No, just kidding. Here's
right.
Russell.
All right.
Now I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes. The band is hitting a fever pitch. That is a band called the Trumpet Mafia. One of the best bands I ever heard, man.
All right. Well, Russ will be with us for the next couple minutes, but we do have reinforcements for tonight. As you can tell from the title in the thumbnail here, we are joined by our very, very good friend, the host of Hardlands Media. You all know who he is, Kit Cabello. Give it up for Kit Cabello joining us here.
Live and direct. Shoot, we should be in Mardi Gras right now, live and direct. I'm jealous of this, man. This is a great time.
But listen, Kit, you should not be jealous, because I think we can finally bury the hatchet on the pizza thing.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so the Chicago pizza, it's not quite pizza to me, but it's good. It's good on its own terms. New Orleans, their pizza is a fucking war crime, man. I have tried it 3 times now. 3 times. For some reason, they can make you a fucking crawfish jambalaya etouffee with a remoulade and fucking perfect.
Delicious.
They cannot make a goddamn slice of pizza here. It's amazing.
Man. All right,
I keep trying it because they're such good cooks. I figure they would figure out some version that works for them, like Chicago did. No, man, it's awful.
New Orleans, you got to up your game. Fine. Let us just say this: the hatchet has been buried. No more, no less. It's all good, because the real war crime is New Orleans pizza, apparently. So
that's it. Me and you should come down here and beat the shit out of everyone who owns a pizzeria in New Orleans.
Hey, Russell, I have good news for you, which is really good news for me. We're at 824 in the YouTube chat, which means you get to do a headbang from Mardi Gras. Ready?
All right.
Beautiful. Look at that.
And I caught the Zulu parade. As a great man once said, if you go to Mardi Gras, you're going to see the Zulu King. And I did. I got my Zulu coconuts here.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at how decked out. Hold the camera a little further from you so people can see the whole bead setup. Yeah, look at that. Wow.
Ah, damn.
I got the much sought after Zulu coconuts.
All right. Nice.
Oh, that's kick ass, man. I gotta go to Mardi Gras one day.
You never went?
No, never went. I always wanted to. Just the opportunities just never came my way. Perhaps someday.
They've introduced a new slogan for the post-COVID Mardi Gras. It's not just for girls with daddy issues anymore.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, I mean, you will be with us on Thursday morning, so you have all day tomorrow to nurse the hangover off. But you don't seem too bad. You seem totally lucid, totally fine.
Well, I stuck to beer because I knew I was going to do this.
Right.
Scientifically, it has been proven that the last 4 hours of Mardi Gras are the time that you're most likely to do something you're going to get arrested for.
Well, don't blow the bail budget because we're going to have to bail you out of the London jail when you do the Assange protest. So we don't have it in the budget for 2 bailouts. We only have 1 covered.
I'm going to have to stick to karaoke and beer.
Exactly.
Stay away from the hurricanes.
All right, well, before we let you go and enjoy the rest of Mardi Gras, we are at 786 in the Rumble chat, so you owe us 1 more headbang for the road.
Fair enough.
All right, beautiful. All right, well, thanks for checking in. Enjoy
All
the
right,
festivities.
have a great show, guys. Happy Mardi Gras. Woo!
Beautiful.
Be safe, man. Be safe. That's all we ask you to be. Be safe, man. Have fun.
I will.
All righty, we'll
Bye,
see you.
guys.
Bye-bye. Russell Dovular, everybody. Well, the show is really all downhill from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I'll tell you, that was probably the highlight of the evening. In fact, definitely the highlight of the evening in terms of the mood, because there's not a lot of good news going on in the world. And so it was nice that Russell's, having some joy over there.
Well, I would say what we're going to be talking about, we can at least bring in our analysis in regards to inspiring people that, okay, what we're going to be talking about is some pretty harsh and brutal stuff, but it's in our control, in our power to at least call out the establishment system for the frauds that they are. So that's it. We can at least bring that in. Okay.
There's something to that.
Yes, we can at least do that. But folks, brace yourself because it's not going to be an easy road we're going to go down.
Not an easy road, but glad to have you with me, Kit. You've been killing it over there. Harlan's Media, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, right? That's it. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, Monday to Friday, YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. And, on a side note, I just want to thank you and your whole crew at Due Dissidents and your subscribers for your support, as well as really giving us a push on Rumble. Same thing, too, to Indie News Network, too. You guys have been very integral in helping us get more of a foothold there. So when I say that you're one of the real ones, Keaton, I do mean it. And whenever you come to Chicago, hey, let me know when you're here. We'll go out, get some drinks. I'll bring my friend Daniel, and we definitely got a lot to catching up to do. And folks, please, mandatory thumbs up for Keaton, because especially through all the stuff we were going through, you know what, you were like a clear voice of reason, and saying thank you is never enough, brother. I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. It's my pleasure, and we're a big family here. Got to support each other. That's what friends are for, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, you've been doing fantastic. I mean, I notice your view numbers are really, really solid, even on Rumble, which is great. And we're of course streaming to YouTube and Rumble right now. It is Tuesday night, because we did a morning show on Sunday. We are moving our Q&A to tonight. So our post-show question and answer will be over on Rumble immediately following this show. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we will head over to Rumble for our post-show Q&A. Patrons, paid Substackers, paid Locals members will have call-in access to that. Everybody else, feel free to put stuff into the chat. But let's get started. We got a lot of stuff to get to here. Kit, I'm very glad that you're here for this segment, because this is a piece by Lee Fong over at his Substack, which I encourage you all to subscribe to, explaining how a potential Biden replacement process would work at or after this year's Democratic National Convention in the great city of Chicago, Kit's hometown. And Kit is going to be covering that as an on-the-ground citizen journalist. So that makes this story all the more interesting, especially with you here, Kit. So if Biden steps aside, lobbyists poised to select Democratic presidential nomination. This by Lee Fong. The president's determination to persist on the ballot until the early stages of the primary process has effectively preempted the possibility of a credible Democratic challenger mounting a traditional bid for the nomination. Should Biden withdraw from the nomination or abruptly exit the race for any reason within the next 8 months? Any reason. Can you think of what that reason might be?
I don't know. Brain damage, missing brain, put brain here, something like that. There should be something in the skull with Biden. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. There is virtually no chance that voters would have a direct say in his replacement. What else is new? In such scenarios, DNC officials, including lobbyists for companies like Google and United Health, may ultimately determine the party's nominee. Well, that's not bad. I mean, we love Google, right? We all love Google here.
Oh, yeah,
Google
really.
and United Health, I mean, they're perfect. In fact, they should just pick the president. I don't even see why we should let anybody vote. I think Google and United Health should just meet and work it out, and that should be that. I don't think anybody should get to vote. No primary, no general, no nothing. The presidential primary filing deadline has already passed for 41 states and territories. The two other declared candidates, Representative Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson, are unlikely to garner enough delegates to secure enough garner enough delegates to secure enough delegates to secure the nomination. Well, Lee must not have been following the news all that closely because Marianne Williamson is out by now. So she's definitely not securing anything. And Dean Phillips, yeah, I'd say it's a long shot at best. Under such circumstances, the Democratic Party could select its presidential nominee through one of two insider-dominated avenues. If Biden exits the race before mid-August, so the convention starts August 19th, the decision would fall to the Democratic National Convention scheduled August 19th to 22nd in Chicago, where 739 superdelegates and 3,933 pledged delegates would hold sway. This convention-based nomination path would involve a frenzied scramble to secure the majority of delegates. Superdelegates, compromising party insiders such as lobbyists, fundraisers, strategists, and elected officials, enjoy the liberty to support any candidate of their choosing. Pledged delegates allocated through the primary elections are selected through a process overseen by the state parties. In the event of Biden's departure before the convention, his pledged delegates would become unbound, free to back alternative candidates. The last time convention delegates selected a Democratic presidential nominee, not voters, was in 1968, where the party selected then Vice President Hubert Humphrey. The convention, also set in Chicago that year, faced riots and protests over Humphrey's support for the Vietnam War. He won the nomination without running as a candidate in a single primary. We're coming back to Chicago right now. However, if Biden were to exit the race post-convention, the decision would rest solely with a select group of DNC insiders. According to the DNC charter, this process would be governed by rules established by the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, followed by a selection and approval process involving DNC members, a group of party loyalists that serve as super delegates. Minion Moore, co-chair of the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, is an influential lobbyist who previously served as an aide to Bill and Hillary Clinton and now works at Dewey Square Group. DSG has worked for a variety of corporate interests. Lyft tapped DSG to fight proposals in California and Massachusetts that would force the company to provide benefits and minimum wage to its drivers. But wait, it gets better. Moore, who is simultaneously serving as the convention chair of the Democratic Convention in Chicago this year, served as a board member with the Black Lives Matter Foundation, the group that spent $6 million in donations raised after the death of George Floyd to purchase a mansion in Los Angeles. Moore's firm, Dewey Square Group, was also retained by the BLM Foundation in 2020 and 2021 and received over $1.2 million from the group. It gets even better than that, though. James Roosevelt Jr., grandson of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh, he must be a solid guy, right? Grandson of FDR?
Yeah, FDR? No, probably not.
Sounds solid, right?
No.
He's the other co-chair of the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. He is a registered lobbyist with the law firm Verrill in Boston, Massachusetts, where he guides various healthcare interests. He previously served as the chief executive of the Tufts Health Plan, a health insurance company that is now a part of Point 32 Health. Roosevelt played a role in the 2020 effort by establishment Democrats to falsely tar then Holyoke Mayor Alex Morse of inappropriate sexual behavior. Remember, Alex Morse was the progressive Democrat running against Richie Neal in Massachusetts. The smear campaign was used to undermine Morse, who had challenged Representative Richard Neal, then the most powerful Democrat on the Tax Writing Ways and Means Committee. So I know that was a lot, but it's important because what he's saying here is that should Biden drop out, this will go one or two ways. If he drops out before the DNC, then you have a floor fight circa 1968, where, yes, superdelegates vote and pledged delegates vote. But here's the key here. They shut the voters out of the process by leaving Biden on the ballot through the primary calendar. The idea is Biden needs to get enough delegates to clinch 50%. This way, his chosen people can then pick whoever they want. And Biden delegates are not going to pick a progressive or an anti-establishment candidate.
Never.
Biden delegates are going to pick Newsom, Whitmer, etc. If he waits till after the convention, then it gets even worse. Then it is up to the superdelegates and insiders by itself. But my suspicion is they're not going to wait till after the convention, because you want the convention, you want the pomp and circumstance of the convention to be there for the candidate. Like, the whole point of the convention is for your candidate to make a big speech. So what that means is that if Biden quits, and I am of the opinion right now that he's going to, you, Kit, my friend, could have a front row seat to the most raucous convention in 50 years. So first, do you think he's going to drop out? And second, how excited are you to be there when it all goes down?
Well,
I think that's how it's going to work out. I really do. I'm not just saying that because you're here.
Well, to answer the second question, I'm very excited that we are going to be covering the DNC convention, and it's going to be here in my backyard. Myself and Daniel, we are trying to pool together our resources to cover it. And, I know I get a lot of pushback from some people say, like, why would you want to cover the DNC convention? Well, going back to cover your first part, it seems inevitable at this point that Biden is going to have to drop out. And if you want to do the pomp and circumstance and the huge, parade or announcement, like, hey, here's who we're going to pick, of course you want to cover it. But no matter what happens, it's still not going to help out the Democrats, because the Democrats still haven't really offered a real solid message on what they're going to do for the American people. And there's a lot of protest groups and activists and organizations that are upset at the Democratic machine, Mayor Brandon Johnson, Governor J.B. Pritzker, and the Democrats as a whole. This is a powder keg that's ready to blow up, and this is frontline video content, people who are going to be upset. This is all going to be taking place at the United Center. The fact that Biden could potentially drop out, okay, who do the Democrats have? Kamala, Gavin Newsom, or whoever else they're going to try to pull out their hip back pocket? What matters to voters right now, because a lot of Americans are just only focused on one thing, or either that, just trying to focus who's on the campaign. You're going to bring out somebody brand new, and it's like, who is this person? Why are they now front and center? They're better than Biden? I thought everyone was saying that Biden was great. We all know that Democrats don't have a leg to stand on. They have no solid foundation whatsoever. So no matter what's going to happen, people are going to be pissed off, because we are witnessing an economy falling apart, our infrastructure failing. It's all been already over a year since the disaster at East Palestine, Ohio. And Biden and the Democrats have yet to do anything to help those people who've been exposed to dangerous chemicals. And not to mention, there's numerous other disasters that took place in this country. So the fact that this DNC convention is going to happen here in Chicago, I am really excited for it. And yeah, I do see Biden dropping out. The worst case scenario that I see playing is that they're going to push him all the way through to the very end, which would be arrogance of the highest level.
When you say to the very end, you mean past the convention?
Past the
drop
convention
out in October?
Possibly, or either that. Worst case, they might be living in their own reality and somehow assume that Americans will vote for Biden because Trump. They're going to hope the tried and true method of 2020 will repeat itself in 2024. I've spoken to a lot of liberals, some diehard liberal people who are just really for Biden, saying we just got to have Biden back in the White House, and maybe he'll step down and Kamala will step in and it'll be historic. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're only doing this for points in history? You're gambling everything. Don't you want to win? Don't you care about some kind of representation? Don't you think you should have been caring about this in 2023 at the very beginning? Because Biden clearly is showing a mental decline. He is not aware of where he is at. He's remembering dead leaders. He's remembering dead politicians. He was struggling to remember his son. And I just got to remember that quote that Tony Soprano asked Jr. Don't you love me? Doesn't anybody love Joe Biden and his family? Did anyone ever think that this was a good idea? I remember when he said he was going to be a one-term president, a one-term president.
Well, he never explicitly said one term, but he says he's going to be a transitional president.
Yeah.
Implying that he would likely not run again.
So obviously, I do hope the first option takes place and that he does drop out, because then I want to see the Democrats fight each other. I want to see who they're going to pick and what kind of candidate is going to be their front card person, that who they're going to have as their leading general, because I want to then find out who is really financing them. If it's Gavin Newsom, if it's Kamala, or if it's some other shitlib Democrat.
It won't be Kamala. Because Kamala can't win either. Kamala has a worse chance of winning than Joe Biden, which is why he picked Kamala, because he knew if he picked a VP who could possibly win, a more electable VP than him or a more competent VP than him, he'd have been out the door a year ago, right? The only reason he's still there and he's even in the conversation is because they know Harris would certainly lose. So my prediction is they keep Kamala where she is at VP. They say, we love Kamala as vice president. That's a great role for her, blah, blah, blah. And I think it will be Newsom. And I switched to this prediction relatively recently. I thought through the fall of last year that no, Biden's the incumbent. They're just going to ride it out with him come hell or high water. The Gaza thing changed that because the bottom fell out of Biden's coalition since his response to this. Because it's one thing to have the suburban, affluent, moderate conservatives turn against you by 10, 15 points. They're always going to split on the margins, 10, 15 points. But when you have coalitions like young voters and Arab voters who are so central to Democrats' chances, just abandon you in droves to the point where now less than 20% of Arabs are saying they're going to vote for Biden, he cannot stand that. You cannot win with numbers like that, and that's why I think they are going to swap him out. Not to mention now, since this special counsel report came out, 86% of voters now say he's too old. Let's go to some video where Karine Jean-Pierre is asked about this.
New ABC News Ipsos poll
Denial.
of Americans think Biden is too old to serve another term.
She just said that right here.
Karine, a new ABC News Ipsos poll shows that 86% of Americans think Biden is too old to serve another term. That is a higher percentage than what we found in a previous poll in September. So clearly, polling shows this is a persistent issue. What is the White House strategy to try and change that perception?
So look, we're going to continue to lead on leadership, right? We're going to continue to focus on what this president has been able to get done, what the president has been able to get done on behalf of the American people. And look, I'll quote a little bit of what the First Lady said, I think incredibly well, just a couple days ago. President Biden does more in 1 hour than most people do in a day. His age with experience and expertise.
He does more in an hour than most people do in a day. Well, that's because he's the president, okay? Yes. The president has more to do than the average schmuck. That's not an answer. That's not an answer.
But show me video that he's really doing this, because this man, I saw him at that event in Lahaina where he was there with the victims.
That's what Jon Stewart said.
Yeah. Show me him doing things, because every video that we've seen of Biden, he looks like this. He doesn't know where he's at. He's gasping for air. He looks confused. He's stuttering. He's stammering. So there must be two Bidens. One that's really drugged up so that he knows what he's doing behind closed doors with no cameras rolling. And then there's a Joe Biden we see he's on that crash down. He's going down from that high after being juiced up. I mean, what is it? Because I don't believe her. I don't believe that word salad that she's given us, because Biden reminds me of Grandpa Simpson, who's eventually going to start yelling at the clouds.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Jon Stewart said. And by the way, folks, if you're wondering why none of your favorite content creators are covering the Jon Stewart thing that much, it's because Comedy Central are absolute Nazis when it comes to copyright. They'll actually take the stream down and pull the video if you show their stuff, which, by the way, Comedy Central, if you want the Daily Show to be relevant again, you got to ease up on the copyright thing. It's fair use. You got to let people use the stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the zeitgeist because nobody's going to be able to share your stuff.
I actually covered it, but I read an article from the New York Post on today's show. So that's the only way around it. But otherwise, I can't really play any videos.
Yeah, otherwise you can't play it. The New York Times just wrote a funny article about it, so we'll probably cover that on Thursday. But what Jon Stewart said was, he made that joke. He said, well, if he's so on top of things, do you have video of him being on top of things? Because you may want to show that if you got it. at this moment, right? And that's kind of what you said there. Now, there was another video that came out just a few minutes before we went on, so we didn't have a chance to pull it off the internet. But you mentioned this, Kip, before we went on air. Biden is taking a physical. He's not taking a cognitive test. He is refusing to take a cognitive test.
The first one in U.S. history. Trump took a cognitive test.
Yes,
Every
first
other
president
president. This is Joe Biden. So when I hear that, because look, I've seen family members take cognitive tests, and I've had friends who've had family members who are of advanced age, 80 and higher, take that, and it's a very difficult thing to witness them, especially when they can't remember anything. They're struggling to go through it. Biden has to prove to the American people that he's still competent. The fact that he has said that he's not going to do it and his advisors are saying that it's A-okay is evidence enough to me to prove that I was correct in 2020 when we said that Biden was on decline. Everybody who said that there was something wrong with Biden, we have been proven correct for the fact that he is not going to be taking the test. By not taking the test, vote blue no matter who, your old dog is telling the world that there's something wrong with him. How do we know he's fine if he's not going to take the test? Even Trump took the test, and that's saying a lot. If the orange boogeyman is willing to cross that Rubicon, why is an old man Biden?
Yeah, and if this special counsel report was such a hit job and it was so unfair, here's your chance to prove it. Take the test, ace the test, and then everybody shuts up. Exactly.
I'll apologize on air. I will apologize on air. If Biden gets a full-on A+, I will say, hey, look, I guess the old dog knows what he's doing.
Kit will scarf a thin crust New York pizza from Joe's on Bleecker Street.
New Orleans pizza. I'll take a New Orleans pizza. I'll have to call up Russ like, hey man, I need you to commit a war crime and get me some New Orleans pizza. Send it to me here. I'll eat it live on air.
There you go. We'll take some super chats, folks. A lovely crowd in here tonight. 1625 in YouTube chat. Knocking on the door of 1100 over on Rumble. That's beautiful. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button wherever you're at. Pat Donahue, solidarity, brother. Solidarity to you, Pat Donahue. Thank you very much. Bloodthirsty mayonnaise. People overuse words like liar, but what colossal liars the Her report has confirmed them to be. Yes, exactly. Every attorney is required to assess mental states, of course. Well, that's the thing, is that the special counsel didn't just gratuitously mention that he had a poor memory. One of the main reasons she chose not to indict him is because he has a poor memory. It's like you can't indict a 95-year-old woman if she burns her house down with her stove because you can't prove she did it on purpose because she's not all there, right? That was instrumental to the case. Exactly.
Right.
Bloodthirsty.
And I actually brought this, and this is something a conversation Angel and I had on his show. He's part of the Indie News Network.
Yeah, I know who he is.
What him and I were talking about, the fact is, okay, the prosecutor, do they really want to go through with this? Because I'm willing to bet if Biden was really having such a hard time remembering everything, there does come a point to where a prosecution has to wonder, okay, how much time and energy am I have to put into this? How much is it going to cost me in regards to all this work when I could just say, all right, you know what? We're not going to do it. There's clearly something wrong with him. And because they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't.
Of course.
So they probably chose the path of least resistance.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, by not indicting him, he kind of kept him in the race. Like you're lucky he didn't, because then he'd pretty much have to drop out. Yasim Miller, thank you for the $10. After having long, exhausting political discussions with my libertarian cousin and my centrist husband this past weekend, it feels so good to hear you guys talking. My jaws were seriously tired. I imagine, Yasim. Well, thank you for being here. 007 Angelo, South Africa taking Russ to court for that outfit.
Oh, don't worry, Russ. I'll get you out. We got the Chicago connection. We'll get you out of jail.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Corey, thanks for the $5 over on Rumble. People in the Seattle area should join Seattle for Assange this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. at 45th Street overpass. We will be waving signs and hanging banners in anticipation of his final extradition hearing. Good for you guys. Appreciate that. Russ is going to be in London to cover the Assange hearing. A week from today is when that starts. So he'll be heading out in 6 days. Thanks to your guys' help with helping us out with that GoFundMe fundraiser. That is what paid for that trip. So beautiful job on you guys. And beautiful job on Jake, our producer. Round of applause in the chat for Jake fielding these Rumble rants for us this evening. Appreciate that, Jake. Analog Winter, thanks for the $10. Please make a sound drop from Kyle saying campaign over from Crystal and Kyle's response to Marianne dropping out. What's the one I have? I have a close one to there. Where the hell did I put it, man?
We have the oof. We have the oof clip for Hard Lens Media.
Oh yeah, you have that one.
Yeah,
I have Eric Cartman. Where is? Oh, here it is.
You Cal.
That's the one I got. We have so many sound drops now. It's hard for me to find them when I need them. But that's that. Since they'll probably swap Biden, says Elephants on Coke for $5. Thank you. Like your screen name. It would be worth doing a deep dive of the two front runners, Kamala and Gavin. People need to be reminded why they suck. Good call, except Kamala's not a front runner. They are not going to put Kamala at the top of that ticket. They will not. Kamala will lose 49 states. Kamala will probably win Hawaii. That's it. That's literally it. That's the only state she would win. I think she'd lose California. I think she'd lose everywhere.
Besides Gavin Newsom, I can't really think of anyone else who they have. Like maybe Pete Buttigieg, maybe Beto O'Rourke. I mean, Beto
the only
O'Rourke,
one who could possibly be it. The only one they could possibly tap besides Newsom would be Whitmer. But I don't think they think Whitmer's ready for prime time yet. I think they want her for the next cycle or the next two, assuming Newsom runs this time and they're going to hope he wins. No, it's definitely Newsom. I mean, they're setting Newsom up to be the guy. That's why they had him debate Ron DeSantis, right? I mean, they're definitely positioning him to be the guy if it's going to be anybody. And I think that's what it will be. Bloodthirsty says, Michelle Obama, we know it's her, right? I don't think so. I don't think she wants it. I don't think she wants to run. She's been very adamant about that over and over again. She would probably, she would have the best chance of winning, though. I think Michelle Obama is by far the most electable Democrat. That's not an endorsement of her politics by any means, but she has the best chance to win.
I think what's everyone suffering with Trump derangement syndrome, they would probably flock to her. That'd be like their last Hail Mary.
Exactly.
If people are so scared of Trump.
Right. Yeah, indeed. All right, let's move on, folks. We got lots more show to do tonight. Tucker Carlson, fresh off of his trip to Moscow, where he interviewed Vladimir Putin, spoke at the World Government Summit, where he offered a reflection on his trip to Russia. Now, Tucker Carlson has been branded a nationalist, American chauvinist, a Western chauvinist, but he had some harsh words for his own country and some pretty favorable words for the Eastern Russian Empire. Here is Tucker Carlson talking about how much nicer it was in Moscow than it is here in the United States.
Radicalizing, very shocking and very disturbing for me was the city of Moscow, where I'd never been, the biggest city in Europe, 13 million people. And it is so much nicer than any city in my country. I had no idea. My father spent a lot of time there in the 80s when he worked for the US government and barely had electricity. And now it is so much cleaner and safer and prettier aesthetically. It's architecture, it's food, it's service than any country, city in the United States that you have to, and this is non-ideological. How did that happen? How did that happen? And at a certain point, I don't think the average person cares as much about abstractions as about the concrete reality of his life. And if you can't use your subway, for example, as many people are afraid to in New York City because it's too dangerous, you have to sort of wonder, like, isn't that the ultimate measure of leadership? And that's true, by the way, it's radicalizing for an American to go to Moscow, I didn't know that, I've learned it this week, to Singapore, to Tokyo, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Because these cities, no matter how we're told they're run and on what principles they're run, are wonderful places to live that don't have rampant inflation, where you're not going to get raped.
Sir,
excuse me. What is that?
Wow. That means a lot coming from Tucker Carlson. When did you ever think you'd hear a Fox News host speaking so highly of these other countries around the world, right? We're used to hearing a lot of jingoism from the American right, but Tucker is clearly on a journey, not just a physical journey around the world, but clearly a political and philosophical journey. To hear him speak so highly of these places around the world that are so often dismissed as third world countries, right, or inferior countries to us. quite amazing. Now, I'm a homebody myself. I'm a bit of a hermit. But Kit, you've spent a lot of time in Japan. And so that was one of the places that he rattled off on that list. What's your take on this?
Well, okay, I've never been to Moscow, so I'm going to take Tucker's word for this. But in regards to
when you come to Moscow, I will show you around. I'll show you around town. Yeah.
But
we'll go out for drinks. Yeah.
Well, when it comes down to Tokyo or Kyoto,
I forgot. That's right. I'm in Albany.
or
Albany. I keep forgetting. Albany.
Hiroshima. Those three cities. Their public transportation on point makes anything in Chicago look completely run down, and makes it was interesting seeing cities in another country in regards to how they present themselves, how they clean up after themselves, how they run things on time. And especially with the trains, it has to be on time. It is efficient. In Chicago, it's not like that. We get a 10-minute delay, and it is what it is. In Japan, in Tokyo, that doesn't fly. In Kyoto, that doesn't fly. In Hiroshima, that doesn't fly. That goes for every single city in Japan. And look, every country has its problems. There's no such thing as perfect. But I remember when I went to visit Japan in December or Christmas Day of 2019 and coming back in February 3rd of 2020, I remember getting off the airplane, and after being spoiled for so long, for 5 weeks in Japan, just using their trains there, going ahead and using the CTA Blue Line train, it smelled like piss. There was garbage everywhere. The train was completely rickety. It was just a complete downgrade. And after being in O'Hare Airport and after going to the international airports in Japan, I mean, it is night and day. And I just remember the words of my grandfather, who mentioned that he knew the guys who designed O'Hare Airport. He said they didn't know what they were doing. They were full of shit. And this airport is forever going to be known as one big disaster, which in comparison to other international airports, America is far behind. Our system is far behind. Our infrastructure is falling behind. I mentioned before about East Palestine, Ohio. I covered it in my morning show. And how our train system, or how the train systems, they're still under-regulated. Like there's no accountability. Whereas in Japan, those things have to be accounted for. Those things have to be checked because it's a key part of their infrastructure. And one of the leading cause of why we're so far behind is because we're wasting billions upon billions of dollars into the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, and just screwing over the people. So the reason why everything looks so run down in this country, why we're behind, is because we're spending our treasury on unnecessary wars and imprisoning our entire population. So I know it's a little bit of a long rant, but I could relate to Tucker, because my disappointment coming back to Chicago after being in Japan in 2020 was just like, wow, we are really that far behind.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said, no, that's a great answer. And he talks a lot about the necessity of interacting with nature, the necessity of going outside, touching grass. I don't know where he lives, but he has, a cabin-like house in, a remote part of the country where he says he spends a lot of time outdoors. He does hunting, he does fishing, he takes long walks. There's something to be said for that, because I feel like when you're doing the CNN Crossfire show every day, when you're doing the Fox News show every single night, you're spending hours of the day in the office, in the studio, scripting and editing and wardrobe and this and that. You become very divorced from a lot of the natural world, a lot of the real world. And a lot of these insights that he seems to be having, especially this one, is that, we could talk theory, and we could talk ideology, but at the end of the day, people experience life in the real world. And when their experience is good, that at a certain point must be a reflection of leadership, a reflection of the system in which that exists. And for the longest time, guys like Tucker would just not question this U.S. system, and now he seems to be. And I think that is partly because I think he's just kind of a genuinely curious person, probably more so now than he was when he was younger. But also I think that has to do with he's just more of the earth now. I think he lives in the world more now than he did when he was at CNN and Fox.
You brought up a good point, because there was something said to me in Japan. I was at a whiskey museum in Kyoto. It was one of those rare finds that you find there, and it was a lot of fun. And then I noticed a lot of Australian tourists come in, and we were all talking about all the sites in Kyoto. And this one woman said, you're from Chicago, you're from America? And I said, yes, I'm from America. She said, you know, we don't see a lot of you guys on vacation anymore. Right. And and you mentioned how Tucker's being worldly and people. Have you noticed, like, Americans, we're mostly at work. We're mostly going to work, coming back home. We're mostly maybe going to our schools, then coming back home, doing work or whatever. We're not having time to see the rest of the world. So to even understand that maybe we're behind is now becoming a privilege in its own right. If you can travel and see how the rest of the world is living, and in comparison to how our country is, it is probably an awakening moment of why we are so far behind, and also how did we get here? Because many Americans probably assume that, okay, well, this is how it is. We're number one. The media tells me we're a superpower, and I just got to go along with my daily business. But if people do have the chance to go out and see another country, that changes their perspective. And in many ways, when I was coming back from Japan, I really missed the efficiency, the cleanliness. I missed how things were being run. And just coming back to Chicago, it was like being dunked into cold ice water. My mind was not ready to really comprehend just how bad it is here and how we can greatly improve ourselves, but we can't because we're spending all of our money on war, on prisons, and bailing out banks, and our politicians are doing wonderful insider trading, so they're living their best lives. So it comes to no surprise why many Americans aren't as aware of how the rest of the world is operating and what they do to improve their citizens' lives.
That's absolutely true. But I think part of the reason why more Americans are starting to question the system is because, as Tucker said, things around here not looking too good. Let's go to an exhibit here. Mm-hmm. This is what we have in our country.
Oh, beautiful.
Our country. What the fuck is this, you say? Fuck yeah! Yeah. What is this? What the heck
Paul
is
Verhoeven
this?
movie. It looks like something from a Paul Verhoeven movie.
It does. It really does. You're
like
right.
Next RoboCop or something.
Yeah. Look at that, folks. Look at that. These are unfinished residential skyscrapers in Los Angeles. The Smithsonian Magazine did a write-up on this just a few days ago. Graffiti artists tagged 27 floors of abandoned skyscrapers in Los Angeles. The street art brought new attention to a $1 billion project that's been stalled since 2019. Graffiti artists broke into downtown Los Angeles Oceanwide Plaza skyscraper development earlier this month and tagged over 27 floors with bright, bold letters. The work was a collaboration between local artists who spray painted the complex over the course of 3 days with words like dank and amen. While the Oceanwide Plaza was meant to be a $1 billion real estate project in downtown LA, it's been empty since 2019. According to the LA Times' Summer Lin and Robert Gauthier, the plan was to build 3 neighboring towers that would serve as luxury condominiums and apartments alongside hotel and retail space. However, construction stopped when the Beijing-based developer backing the project ran out of funds. The towers sit unfinished across from Crypto.com Arena, which recently hosted the Grammy Awards. In many ways, the structure provided a perfect canvas for local artists. Yeah, that's why this made the news lately, because I guess, when they do the external, aerial shots of the arena, the venue for the Grammys, they couldn't help but seeing these would-be luxury condo skyscrapers being repurposed into giant street art projects. So that's what we have going for us here. No disrespect to our street artists. Street art is art, but it's not the Moscow subway system.
No, it's not. But also, when I see stuff like that, that is a true representation of the rage people are feeling right now. Even before doing this show, I remember having conversations with a lot of my family members about the downtown skyscrapers. And when I went to see Godzilla -1 earlier this month, I got off at Adams and Wabash and I decided to walk a little bit down State Street just to check it out. And there are many storefronts that are empty. Many businesses that used to be there. It was like it was walking almost in the middle of a ghost town, because there was a time walking down State Street or walking down Michigan Avenue, you had to say, "Excuse me, please get out of my way, look out." And even walking to AMC River East 21, there was abandoned buildings, there was abandoned storefronts, and even these luxury condos and everywhere else. No one can afford to live in these buildings. So who are you building these buildings for? Why are you building them up if no one can afford to live in them? So whatever kind of message they were saying, if it was art for just art's sake, or they just did it because they want to give a middle finger to the system, that is a rage people are feeling in the streets because people can't afford their rent. People can't afford to own a house. It is becoming not just a dream. It's becoming a legend, a myth about owning a home or living somewhere in an affluent city. You just can't do it in America because the price is too high. Who are you building these buildings for if only 1% of the population can actually afford it? And even then, they ran out of funds. They ran out of goddamn funds to build the building. So they're just there now. If they don't maintain it, then yes, there will be some failures along the way if there's no maintenance. You just can't build a building there and assume that's just going to be fine. Things do fall apart.
Yes. Or, a building like that could stay up for years and years without being torn down. That's how the High Line Park formed in New York City. That was an above-ground train line. And the city, after that train went out of fashion because the advent of, cars and trucks and vans sort of replaced freight trains citywide for shipping freight into New York Harbor, the city didn't want to invest the money to tear it down. They figured this would cost more to tear it down than it would to just fucking leave it there. So you could start seeing these real urban wastelands start to spring up in cities from coast to coast. And that has a lot to do with what Tucker was talking about, how, this country just feels like a shell of its former self while these other countries are becoming more and more advanced to the point where they're better places to live. And if a place is a nicer place to live than the place you're living, at a certain point, you're going to start to ask a lot of questions that you may have not asked in the past about where you live and the system that undergirds your way of life.
And that's what's really laying a lot of foundations to my concerns about the DNC convention, of it being a hotbed, because in Chicago, you have a lot of Chicagoans who are upset with the lack of our public infrastructure, our public transportation, our schools being shut down, and it's leading to a lot of high confrontation at City Hall. It's just more than just a migrant issue. I mean, there's a lot of issues that Chicagoans are upset about, and the DNC better get ready for the fact that whoever they do pick, be they decide to roll it all in for Biden or whoever their nominee is going to be, it's not going to inspire people, because if people's lives still suck and if it's still a struggle, people are going to be asking more questions. We have the internet at our disposal, and we could just look up this information ourselves, do our own research, to quote Jimmy Dore, do our own research. And as soon as we give in comparison to how the rest of the world is operating and how we operate, more and more Americans are going to ask, what have you done? How come you can't spend more of this treasury on us? Why are we bombing poor people in other countries? Why are we bailing out these other countries and giving them health care? Why are we doing this? Why are we bailing out the banks? People will start asking that question, and they're going to get angry, and they should, because this is not a standard of living. I remember a time when Chicago used to be busted. I remember when Chicago used to be a place where it was crowded late at night. When I went downtown, it was like a ghost town. There were people out, but not the way I remember it when I was a young.
Yeah, no, that's the story of New York too. Absolutely, 100%. All right, let's take some more super chats and then we'll move on. Aspen Fallen, thanks for $2 coming in late. Did I miss the pants check?
Oh, well, see, hold on, Keaton. Look, see, I'm what you call a pioneer, and dare I say it, an American hero. So, look. See, unlike Jeffrey Tube and CNN, you guys know that when I do my show or when I co-host, I wear pants.
There we go. No Mardi Gras in Kit Studio. Kristen, thanks for the $1.99. Appreciate that. Sparky says denazify Israel. Thank you, Sparky. Kenman, thanks for the $2.79. Biden going to do the Macarena at the DNC like in 1995. Yes, good one. Oh boy, Preteri, deep dishes and pizza. It's casserole. Love from Minnesota. Oh, well, you're Midwestern.
Well, hey, listen, show some love to Chicago, okay? Come on, Minnesota.
Yeah, I love deep dish pizza. It's not the same cultural experience as a grab and go New York slice. New York, you run with it, you get a paper plate, you fold it, you eat it. But no, Chicago deep dish pizza is amazing.
Yeah, we have 4 different styles of pizza. Just more deep dish is the flagship, but we got 3 other different styles too, because we're creative like that in Chicago.
There you go. Beautiful. Song 27, thanks to the $9.99. Love seeing Kit invade the DD space. Glad to have you, brother. Shout out to Lou Malnati's.
Yes, delicious pizza there. Got to give a shout out to all the lovely Chicago restaurants that are still up and running. Hopefully, they remain that way.
Yes, indeed. By the way, folks, if you're not subscribed to Hard Lens Media on YouTube or Rumble, really and Rumble, make sure you subscribe on both. You have to subscribe on both nowadays. It's not enough to be subscribed to one. Got to do it both. So Hard Lens Media, YouTube, and Rumble. Jay Tolbert, Kit, do you remember the NATO protests in 2012? I predict the DNC will be just like that.
Oh, wow. Geez, I got to go way back because 2012, I remember reading about it in the pushback from the CPD as they were hitting the protesters. I wasn't part of it, but I remember watching on the news. And if that's the case, but here's the thing, how close are the protesters really going to get to the DNC convention? We will be finding that out. I won't be alone there. There's going to be a couple other content creators there with me. So we'll give you the heads up of what's going to happen. I'm going to do everything I can to get press passes for whatever team we are able to assemble. So that we can at least give you guys the facts, the videos, the photos, and anything else that we can cover there. Hopefully it will be effective enough so that we can properly document what happens in Chicago in August.
Nice. Excellent. Sparky says most of Biden's crimes happened long before his presidency. Yes, that is true. Paul Chu, isn't it enough he can ride a bike? Yeah, that's what Rachel Maddow says.
Ride a bike.
Yeah, right, exactly. Sparky also says most of his crimes were from long before his dementia. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The worst of Joe Biden came long ago in certain respects, although this enabling of what's going on in Gaza is probably the worst thing that he's done. But to be fair, just about any president probably would do it, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that in a few minutes, but we got one more domestic politics story, and then everything else on the agenda tonight is Israel-Gaza. So before we get into that stuff, I did want to call attention to this because we know that AIPAC is going all in against the squad this year, and looks like they may have successfully picked one of them off. Obviously, the votes are not counted yet. The primary is going to be this summer. But as of right now, Cori Bush is trailing her Democratic primary challenger by 22 points. Latest poll, Representative Cori Bush is trailing her Democratic primary challenger by 22 points in a new poll released Monday. That's yesterday at this recording. The poll, commissioned by the GOP firm Remington Research Group on behalf of the Missouri Scout, was conducted February 7th to 9th. Oh, I apologize. This must have been last week. And included, no. It was released yesterday, but it was conducted 7th to 9th. And included 401 likely 2024 Democratic primary voters. The survey asked respondents for whom they would vote in a hypothetical primary held today if the race were between three candidates listed in the following order: Wesley Bell, the state senator Maria Chappelle Nadal, and Cori Bush, the incumbent. The question did not indicate which candidate was the incumbent. Half of the respondents said Bell, 28% said Bush, and 4% said Nadal. 18% said they were not sure. So 50 to 28, Bush losing. Bell leads Bush in most demographic breakdowns as well. Among African-American respondents, 43% support Bell, 35% for Bush, and 20% undecided. Bell wins the white respondents by a greater margin, 60% to 20% of white respondents who say they support Bush. The serious threat to Bush's reelection campaign comes as primary challenges, to Democratic critics of Israel have arisen in districts throughout the country. Bush has been vocal in support of Palestinians and has been critical of Israel since the war began in October 2023 between Israel and Hamas, the U.S.-designated terrorist organization that governs the Gaza Strip. The poll also surveyed the likely Democratic voters' views on the war in the Middle East, asking whether respondents are more sympathetic to the Israelis or to the Palestinians. This is quite the pathetic number from a supposedly progressive district. A plurality of respondents, 44% said not sure, 35% said they were more sympathetic to the Israelis, and only 21% said they were more sympathetic to the Palestinians. What I tell you, folks, Democratic voters, not too bright. This is the least reliable cohort in the country. This is why you give up on the party. Bush's campaign team did not respond to a request for comment from the Hill. The survey had a margin of error of 4.9 percentage points. Of course, Stop Anti-Semitism, the smear merchants here, we're very happy about this. Great news. Our anti-Semite of the week and squad member Cori Bush appears to be losing by 22 points in a new Democratic primary poll to opponent Wesley Bell. Let's take a peek at Bush's anti-Semitic voting record. Then they go on and list that. We don't have to read that. Here is Wesley Bell.
Oh,
St.
yeah.
Louis stands with Israel. Here's the guy who's going to probably at this point defeat Cori Bush in this Democratic primary. Now, the thing is, Wesley Bell had been running in the Democratic Senate primary to challenge Josh Hawley, the incumbent Republican senator, in a race he would almost certainly lose since Missouri is a solid red state. And so, well into that campaign, he was persuaded to abandon that effort and instead primary Cori Bush in her congressional district, where he was told he had a good chance to win. And apparently he does. But here's Wesley Bell fielding a question at a press conference. This is the same press conference in which he made official that he was switching from Senate candidate to congressional candidate. Here he is when asked about United States support for Israel.
With the Israeli military's airstrikes and invasion of Gaza, or would you condition aid to Israel on them altering their behavior?
I think we have to stand with our allies, and
typical
Israel's
talking
always
point.
been an ally, but we always want to keep the door open for a two-state solution. But there has to be. But we
This is just
cannot-
absolute hackery.
We
You'll see.
cannot give aid and comfort to terrorist organizations, and Hamas is a terrorist organization, and Israel has the right to defend themselves. And as someone, and I'll tell you, I was in Israel in 2017.
Oh yeah, how much they pay you?
when The president at the time announced that he was moving the
Watch how he
Capital.
trips over this.
the diplomat
Embassy.
the embassy. I'm sorry.
Embassy?
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was at a kibbutz, and when we were talking to someone who lived in the kibbutz, the group that I was with, and they showed us the bomb shelters, and they said, when those bomb sirens go off, you have to drop everything you're doing, and you have 10 seconds to get 10, 12, whatever the number was, about 10 seconds to get in the bomb shelter. We saw them. We wanted to stay, but our guide told us we needed to leave. There was other things to do, and so as we were leaving, about 45 minutes to an hour later, those sirens went off. And had we still been there, we would have been scrambling into the bomb shelter. Now, fortunately, the Iron Dome deflected them, so we would not have been in harm's way.
Right, the Iron Dome caught them. See, in Gaza, they don't have an Iron Dome. When Israel drops their bombs on Gaza, they explode and blow the hands and feet off of 3, 4, and 5-year-old kids.
Or use it at little girls in a car and her cousin's trying to call first responders, and yet they fire 50 cal or other heavy machine gun weaponry in there, and then a tank rolls it over, and then the first responders who get there is blown up by an Israeli tank. So I mean, this guy Wesley Bell. I mean, boy oh boy, you really are a caring human being. We're what at 28,000 dead civilians, going on now to 30,000.
Yep.
And he's not going to bat an eye. But hey, at least according to him, the door has to be open for a two-state solution.
Oh, he says that again. He says that again. Here, I'll let this finish. He makes sure to hit that note
when
again.
you are living under the constant threat of Hamas, Hezbollah firing rockets, and Israel's a very small place. I think it's misguided to not understand how complex this situation is. But we must stand with our allies. But then we still want to find a peaceful resolution and leave the door open for a two-state solution. But we have to address these issues on the ground.
So a two-state solution. Hey, yeah, let's do a two-state solution. How come the other party's not there? Their chair's empty. Oh, it's because everyone's probably dead.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get more into the two-state solution proposition a little bit later in the stream. But you see there a guy with just no real mastery or knowledge of the issue whatsoever, Took him forever to come up with the word embassy, right? That was just an audition tape. That was an audition tape for AIPAC. He was switching his race from a race he couldn't possibly win. No Democrat's going to beat Josh Hawley in this environment in this year, in the statewide race, to a race that he knew he could win, especially if he got that sweet Israel lobby money. And sure enough, he did. Notable development in St. Louis. AIPAC's Political Action Committee has endorsed Wesley Bell, a Democratic challenger to Representative Cori Bush, according to its online political portal. Statement from AIPAC spokesperson Marshall Whitman: "We proudly endorse Wesley Bell, who is a strong advocate for the U.S.-Israel relationship, in clear contrast to his opponent, who represents the extremist anti-Israel fringe." Now, our friend Nick Cruz tweeted out that he hopes all these quote-unquote NATO leftists lose, and I sympathize with that. You know, as much as this Wesley Bell guy is just nothing but just a bought and paid for whore, much in the vein of a Richie Torres type. What has Cori Bush really done to make us feel like we should spend time and resources going to bat for her?
None. In that article, you read like 400 Democrats were polled and asked these questions. Okay, those are Democrat voters, and Democrat voters are vote blue no matter who people, and they're probably most likely did not vote for Cori Bush. Who put Cori Bush into power? It was progressives and independents. It was activists. It was organizers. That big coalition that everyone was hyping up about. That coalition now that is forever fractured and possibly will never be mended ever again. And so what incentive does her old coalition have to support her when all she's been doing has been following the Democratic machine? She wrote a fantastic book, apparently, that she was selling out. Like, first of all, you're writing a book and you've been in office for what? How long? Almost 2 years?
Yeah, she came out with that pretty quickly, yeah.
What are you writing about? I mean, you're right now, you have to build at least an idea of, okay, hey, I've been in office for like maybe 2 terms or 3 terms or something of that nature. Give people a reason to support you. And what did the Democratic establishment do, especially the progressives who are part of Congressional Progressive Caucus? They never followed through with holding Biden's feet to the fire. They told us that we had to be polite, that we had to be pragmatic. So, of course, most of her diehard supporters are saying, F you, I'm not going to vote at all. And they should be feeling this way. So on the one hand, that other dude, Bell, is a complete jagoff. But on the other hand, Cori Bush, world's smallest violin playing here, you did this to your coalition. You broke apart. You didn't challenge Biden or Nancy or anyone else in Washington, D.C. You didn't take that initiative. And by not taking that initiative, your core base abandoned you. Your people left you. And those numbers are pretty downright pathetic. So if she loses, fine, she lost. Am I going to cry? No, and neither should any other progressive or independent, because she is part of that Democratic machine, just like Bell's going to be part of that Democratic machine. The only difference is that she says she cares about Israel and Palestine and the crisis that's happening in Gaza. But if she really did, she would have been laying more into it. She would be actually challenging the leadership, but she's not doing that.
Yeah, this is what Shama Sawant said, because when she was being recalled, a lot of people asked her, well, why are you such a ball buster? If you were just a little easier to work with, they wouldn't be recalling you. And she said, no, they'd be recalling me anyway because I'm not one of them and they don't like me. If I play ball, the difference is that when they come after me, I lose because my base doesn't believe in me anymore, right?
That's right.
She said the reason she beat the recall is because she is the real deal and her base did have her back. So when the Democrats came for her, what happened? Her base got behind her and she won. The same thing would have happened to Cori Bush if she had actually represented the people who sent her there. But whether it's her or AOC, or Jamal Bowman, who could very well lose his primary as well. That's a tough district for an anti-mass murder candidate to win, Westchester County. And so he could very well lose too.
Well, there's also something else, and I can't believe I forgot it. There's so much happening that there are things I do forget, but never forget remember when AOC and Cori Bush did that little video saying that they had to run to stop Nancy adjourning Congress because, they were going to go on vacation, but if they didn't stop them in time, that Americans were at risk of being kicked out of their apartments and homes, and they did their little protest at the Capitol building.
Yeah, that was the eviction moratorium.
Yeah, the eviction moratorium, and as soon as they got their quote-unquote victory, they said, let's celebrate, but no, Colin Radix Carter and a few other people were there saying, no, we haven't won yet. The people are still going to be evicted from their homes. People are still going to be kicked out. And yet Cori Bush and AOC said, let's play the music. Let's play. Well, hey, Corey, the music is starting to stop, and you're about to hold the biggest amount of excrement in your political career, which is going to cost you your seat. So good luck, Corey. You'll need it.
Indeed. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Every time anyone says that Israel's our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think that before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. John Sheehan, U.S. missionary. Good quote, Sparky. Thank you very much for that. Dems may have Kamala and Newsom enter primary late, and whoever wins has the other as VP. At least that's what they'll tell Kamala. It's to let her down easy so she doesn't cause a stink. Possible. I mean, you may be right, because Newsom would beat Kamala in a Democratic primary, because the brass would get behind Newsom and Democratic voters vote how they're told. But that's not going to happen. If that were going to happen, that would have to happen within the next couple of weeks, because Super Tuesday is early March. And once, see, if the way they're playing this out, I think, is they want Biden in the race, quote unquote, through Super Tuesday, because once Biden gets all of those state wins on Super Tuesday, now you have a 50% plus delegate lock with Biden. Therefore, the voters are no longer relevant, because now when Biden drops out, whoever they tell his delegates to vote for, they vote for. And at that point, the people have no say. And that's why I think they're doing it this way. They need Biden in through at least early mid-March. And in my opinion, he's probably going to be in a little longer than that. I think they're probably going to try and swap him out around June, would be my guess. June, maybe July, since the convention's a little late this year, so they may wait until late, because actually, I just thought of this now. The advantage to waiting until late is if they wait until the Republicans have their convention to do the switch, that works in their advantage, because then the Republicans are going to be attacking Biden at the convention, and then the Democrats will put somebody else up, right? So it'll be a bait and switch. It'll be a fake out. They might do it that way. Who knows? But I can't see Biden coming out of the convention the nominee. I just don't see it.
By the way, anyone who votes in the Democratic primary, it's nothing more than a participation event. Your vote never mattered. You're going to get your golden sticker and that's it. But your vote is just that. It's meaningless. We've learned that in 2016 and 2020.
Absolutely. Mark, thanks for the $5. Don't kid yourself. Tucker still wants confrontation with China. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, no, Tucker's politics are still not really my politics, but I think he's getting warmer. Scott George, thanks for the $5. We in America have the best government money. Indeed. Anthony says there's a lot of overlap between O'Hare and the upcoming election. Hassle, headache, and confusion about what you paid for and where you headed. Yeah.
Oh, Anthony, that's an understatement, okay? My grandpa knew the people who designed it, said it was the worst design he's ever saw. And they're still doing construction there as we speak, and it's been an absolute nightmare. I went to pick up some relatives there last year. Complete headache. It was literally pulling teeth just to leave that freaking airport. Anyways.
Yeah, I believe you. That's true. All right, let's take a couple more of these. Sid Artivicious, thank you for that. I love that screen name. Sid Artivicious, vote deep dish New York style 2024. There you go.
Yes, there we go.
A true unity ticket, as they say. Oh, that's funny. Virtuoso. Vosh watches the Kentucky Derby with his pants down.
Hey, man. Come on, man. Come on. I don't need that. This is a family-friendly show.
Family show. We'll leave it at the innuendo, but that is good, Virtuoso. Thank you very much. All righty, folks. Well, we are about halfway through our segments tonight, and it's time to thank our Patreon members, our paid Substack subscribers, and our local supporters. You can go and join the party at patreon.com/do dissidents. Our supporters are the backbone of this program. They are what keep us afloat. They are what censor-proof the operation. You can't count on these big tech platforms to keep you going. You have to count on your audience. And so our supporters are the strength of this show.
Thank you.
Kit knows that as well. And Hard Lens, it's the same across everywhere. When you get hit with an unexpected, fastball to the face, you count on the supporters to back you up, and that's how this game works for sure. And so you can join the club at patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or DoDissidents.locals.com. We got, how many we got over there in Rumble, Jake? About 1,250, about between 12 and 1,300. If you're over there on Rumble right now, hit that join button right under the screen and join our locals. And when you join, you get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which happen once a week, including tonight. We're going to be on Rumble after the show tonight, hearing from you guys. And you also get access to 2 special members-only shows per month. So for only $5 a month, you get all that. We try to make it as good a deal as we can for you guys, because your support is truly what keeps this show going. And so we thank you all very, very much for that. That's DoDissidents.locals.com, DoDissidents.substack.com, and patreon.com/DoDissidents. Thank you all very, very much for your support. We will take a couple more rants and chats as that scroll finishes up. Vicious Pixie, thanks for the $5. Pasta's stream on YouTube was taken down right after it started. Wow,
God
but he was back up, right? It wasn't like a strike, because he was able to get it back going. I saw he was going at like 8:30, so I think he's all right. Could be a copyright thing. I don't know. Did he try playing the Jon Stewart shit? Like, that's the thing.
You can't play that.
Yeah, you can't play that. It's not just they'll demonetize it; they'll actually block it. That's like playing like Netflix stuff. Like they're really. I mean, I don't know. That's what he did, but he seems to be okay, because I saw he was on at 8:30, so at least it wasn't like a penalty or something like that, because Pasta's been through it with YouTube, that's for sure. And I'm happy for him that he's got his channel going. By the way, Pasta 2 Go is his channel. Go subscribe over there. Pasta number 2 Go. Nocturnal Human, don't forget about pizza rules.
We don't speak about that abomination.
Exactly. All right, let's keep the show going here. All right, folks, this is a tough one. This Sunday was Super Bowl Sunday, and so I want to congratulate all of us here in America for surviving the Swiftie coup. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce took over the country. That was like January 6th. That was a lot like January 6th, that Super Bowl.
That was Tay leading her army of so many lovely people.
Yeah.
The Tay fever.
America will not be the same moving forward. It happened just as planned, a totally rigged game, all that stuff. But something much more important happened on Sunday that we saw coming for a while. So I want to take you back a little bit before then. Biden warns Netanyahu against Rafa operation without credible safety plan. This reported by The Guardian. This is early Sunday morning. In a call on Sunday with Benjamin Netanyahu, Joe Biden told the Israeli prime minister that Israel should not launch a military operation in Rafah, quote, without a credible and executable plan for ensuring the safety of and support for the more than 1 million people sheltering there. Rafah is a city of 280,000 that's now populated by 1.4 million because the people living there now have been displaced from their cities and towns to the north. The call between the U.S. president and Netanyahu was the first between the two leaders since Biden on Thursday used the phrase over the top to describe Israel's military strikes in Gaza in response to the October 7th attack by Hamas. Biden officials with the United Nations have warned that an Israeli military ground offensive in Rafah, where about 1.3 million Palestinians are sheltering, would lead to a, quote, bloodbath. Israel's military has appeared determined to move forward with the offensive, while it remains unclear where the large number of civilians could be safely moved away from danger. Also on Sunday morning, Benjamin Netanyahu actually appeared on Channel 7's Sunday news show And here's a little bit of how this interview went.
Minister, let me ask you right away, what's your response to President Biden saying that your response in Gaza has been over the top?
I appreciate President Biden's support for Israel since the beginning of the war. I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but put yourself in Israel's shoes. We were attacked, unprovoked attack, murderous attack on October 7th, the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust. And let me tell you, I think...
Notice how he just totally brushes off whatever criticism that
he
Biden
can't.
offered. Over the top. Yeah, I don't know what he meant by that, but here's my talking points. Nobody's going to do anything to stop us, no matter what they say.
And I also have to bring up two references too. The New York Times, a few weeks ago, people probably forgot about it, but the New York Times did an article where the Israeli intelligence services were given a heads up that there was something, a year heads up that something was going to be taking place. Now, there's still a lot more reports looking into this, but it falls in line to something that Charlie Kirk mentioned that he got a lot of flack for, and he commented on that New York Times article, and that is, was there a stand down? Why were people told to stay? Why was the entire for that time period there was a lack of real security there? I mean, it's the world's most one-sided fistfight. You got these watchtowers, concrete walls, barbed wire fences, surveillance cameras, drones, the best quote-unquote intel services, and you are not going to be seeing this shit-fit haymaker coming your way. Don't tell me that this isn't a plan, because we all knew that Benjamin Netanyahu had some domestic issues impacting his country. And I don't know, did he want to have a wag the dog kind of moment?
Well, he still does have domestic issues. His polling is still terrible. And part of the reason his polling is still terrible is because he is refusing hostage deals in order to continue this military campaign, which is putting the hostages themselves at risk.
And those families are, we even covered this, how the families are even stormed one session of parliament demanding the government do something and call for a ceasefire. But those hostages, I guess, are a second thought. For all we know, some of those hostages could be buried alive, dead, or either that. We don't know where they're at. Because,
of course.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, it's just, he just brushes it off, dismisses it, and says, hey, put yourself in Israel's shoes. Well, put yourself in the Palestinian people's shoes for a second, because they have nowhere safe to go. They have nowhere to hide in Gaza. There's no safe space. If one place is safe, they're told that it's going to be bombed, and then they have to go to another place. They have to go to another location. No matter what they do, they're screwed. I mean, I can imagine what that could do to somebody mentally and physically, to where they're breaking down, and we see people getting sniped. We see people getting run over. We see people getting destroyed. And yet we have to put ourselves in Israel's shoes.
Yeah.
What about the Gazans?
Right.
I think we've responded in a way that goes after the terrorists and tries to minimize the civilian population in which the terrorists embed themselves and use them as human shields. We dropped thousands of flyers. We phoned Palestinians in their homes. We asked them to leave. We give them safe corridors and safe zones.
No, you don't.
So I think we're doing the right thing. And now, let me tell you one other thing. We're going to win this thing. Victory is within reach.
But you've had more than 28,000 people killed, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. You've had hundreds of thousands that have been forced from their homes. You have a lack of water, a lack of food. Don't you feel a moral obligation to do more, to do something to protect what is seen as to stop what is seen as a catastrophe?
I think that any civilian loss, any civilian casualty is a tragedy.
Oh, sure.
And it's a tragedy that is forced upon us by Hamas. But let me tell you something. I'd be cautious with the Hamas statistics. And I can tell you that according to these urban warfare...
By Hamas statistics, he means the Gaza Ministry of Health, which every mainstream outlet says is credible in its numbers. The Washington Post uses those numbers. And speaking of statistics, he cites a statistic in just a moment that is going to make your head spin.
Experts and other commentators, we've brought down the civilian to terrorist casualties, the ratio, down below 1-to-1, which is considerably less than in any other theater of similar
What's that?
warfare. And we're going to do more. We're going to
Wait a minute. You're saying it's only been one civilian that's been killed for one Hamas terrorist?
What?
In Gaza?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
But that doesn't add up.
We've killed.
No, this is an out of control lying murderer who is just free to act as he wants. And whatever Biden mumbles through at a press conference where he's trying to prove that he has a brain left matters nothing to this guy. This guy knows he can get away with absolutely anything, including saying absolutely anything. He just said, don't believe these statistics about the dead Palestinians. Believe me when I say that our ratio of civilian to terrorist below 1 to 1, every outlet out there says 2/3 of casualties are women and children. You cannot find a single outlet anywhere who would corroborate that. Not one.
No. And that's something I find impressive right now, because even corporate media, which has been a long time, been always portraying, or at least that siding with Israel. I mean, I have to say, I'm kind of overall impressed at the fact that corporate media has at least been as consistent as it has been when it comes down to covering the death toll in Gaza. I'm not going to want to paint them as, I don't want to give them any more credit because it's corporate media, but how is it 1-to-1? Men, women, and children. We've all seen the horrific imagery on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or any other social media post that will have it up there of war crimes being presented before the entire international community. For Christ's sakes, the ICJ just took Israel and made it, South Africa took Israel to the ICJ. So they held them accountable. I mean, whatever happens afterwards will be a sight to see. But we are witnessing war crimes happening. And here we have the leader of Israel saying, oh, 1-to-1. I'm still trying to add that in my head. And you have the balls to say that in front of everyone. How?
No, it's unbelievable.
How is that even possible? No wonder. It comes as no wonder he has so many problems, not only foreign, but domestic wise. And people of Israel, if this is your representation of a leadership, then yes, people do deserve to criticize you. And no, it's not being anti-Semitic criticizing Israel. It's being anti-Zionist. Zionism and Judaism are two different things altogether. And the Israeli government is a freaking apartheid system. That's what it is. And we're witnessing a genocide. Are we going to cross the 30,000 pretty soon? 50,000? 100,000? How many of those men, women, and children are terrorists? Are you able to tell me what a terrorist looks like? What do they look like? Tell me. Explain it to me. Because what's happening in Gaza, it's going to be taking place in the West Bank, and it's just going to keep on getting worse and worse. So, I wonder if Piers Morgan is going to still ask, but do you still condemn Hamas? Well, what's left of Gaza? Do you condemn Israel?
Right. Exactly. Here we go. We got more.
We've killed and wounded over 20,000 Hamas terrorists. Out of that, about 12,000 fighters, and we're doing everything we can to minimize civilian casualties.
No. We've killed and wounded 20,000 Hamas terrorists. Out of that, 12,000 fighters. What do you mean? So there are Hamas terrorists who aren't fighters? Like, he's just spinning absolute bullshit, just absolute nonsense.
My God.
And continue to do so. But one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to let Hamas emerge victorious. And if we leave, it'll be a tremendous victory for the Iran terror axis. It's bad for everyone.
Yeah, you've directed the Israeli Defense Forces to evacuate Rafa in advance of this ground invasion. Where are those people supposed to go? This is 1.4 million people, many of whom have fled northern Gaza. I mean, they're living in tents. Where are these people supposed to go?
Okay, so he asked a very obvious question. You've leveled every place to the north of Rafa. That's why they're in Rafa in the first place. They were told Rafa was a safe zone. So now that you're bombing Rafa and are planning on a ground invasion, where are they supposed to go? Listen to this answer.
Go.
Well, Rafa is a very small percentage of Gaza, and I think it's about 10% or 15%.
No. I mean, the estimates
in that area north of Gaza that has already been cleared.
Well, there's an estimated 1.4 million people in that area right now. And as the German foreign minister said, they can't just disappear. Where are they supposed to go?
Listen to this.
No, well, the areas that we've cleared north of Rafa are plenty of areas there. But
there's plenty of areas north of Rafa that you can go. The areas that you destroyed. That's why they're in Rafa in the first place. The areas north, they can go back there where there are no healthcare centers left, no schools left, not a whole lot of mosques left, not a whole lot of residential buildings or buildings of any kind. We saw footage out of Gaza City. That's northern Gaza. It's a moonscape. It's a moonscape. There's nothing there. And now this guy has the balls to come and say, well, they can go back north. We're done bombing the north, so they can just go back north so we can bomb the south. I mean, it's just so obvious that his aim is to completely destroy Gaza and make it unlivable. Whoever dies in the process dies. Whoever does not will be forced out because there will literally be nothing left. That is so clearly his intention, and that is so clearly what he means by total victory. And this part about the hostages, there was a comprehensive hostage exchange deal on offer, which he rejected. So any talk about how what happened on Super Bowl Sunday, which is being called the Super Bowl Massacre, was a rescue mission because they say they got 2 of their hostages back, you can't call an operation a rescue mission when you've already been offered your hostages back. And that makes no sense. You can't describe it that way. You've already been offered a full hostage exchange. You had to agree to a ceasefire, and you had to agree to releasing some of the Palestinian quote-unquote prisoners. Notice we call Palestinian hostages prisoners, right?
Yeah.
They are hostages. A child who throws a rock at an Israeli tank going down the street and is put in prison for it, that's not a prisoner. That's a hostage, right? So that was the deal on offer. He didn't agree to it because the hostages are far down on his list of priorities. His top priority is the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And that's why, Kid, as you mentioned, he has a lot of domestic problems. Obviously, before October 7th, it was the Supreme Court stuff. But his own people, we almost covered this. We'll probably cover this on Thursday. His own people staged massive protests against him because they can see he is prioritizing this mission of annihilation and extermination over the release of the Israeli hostages. They understand that, right? And so that's why his polls are what they are. But that is just absolutely unthinkably outrageous to say, well, they can go back north. We're already done bombing the north.
What is disappointing is the fact that the Biden administration, if this is allegedly be true, that Biden himself is saying that he's upset with Netanyahu. And the thing is, well, if you're so upset, last I checked, Biden, you are in charge of a global superpower. So technically, in theory, you do have the weight, the push, the pull to tell Israel to knock it off. You do have that political power to get the rest of the international community to unite together to stop this genocide from taking place. And in theory, our U.S. politicians could do that too. But oh, wait, most of our politicians are paid professional whores because they're owned by AIPAC, and AIPAC tells them to shut up. So what do our politicians do? People like Bernie or Warren, and yes, I'm going to be singling out the Democrats because I know what to expect out of Republican lawmakers. If you want to watch somebody disrespect Republican lawmakers, watch another show, because the Republicans, what more could be said about GOP lawmakers that hasn't been said already? Of course, they're going to be taking AIPAC money, but the Democrats ran this whole notion of caring about progressive policy issues. The Democrats ran this whole idea of caring about social issues, but Warren, Bernie, AOC, yes, I'm naming them all. They all put on this fake show of saying that they care, but they don't, because they don't have the power. They don't have the will to actually say, hey, let's actually get Congress to do an emergency session to get Israel to stop doing this so that we can get the president of the United States to stop this crisis. But none of our leaders are going to do that because they are owned. We open the doors for sociopaths to buy off our politicians, and our politicians are more than happy to take that money and just go on by. They could say, "Oh, we hearts and minds, we care for the people. They're in our hearts," but they're never going to lift a finger. And we are witnessing a sociopathic dictator say, "Oh yeah, well we're doing everything we can. The northern area of this city is cleared out. It's perfectly flat and safe. They could build like little rubble, tents and everything else, so they'll be fine while we bomb another city holding 1.4 million people." Explain to me, those who are still defending Israel's action, how is this not a genocide?
But we are working out a detailed plan to do so, and that's what we've done up to now. We're not cavalier about this. This is part of our war effort to get civilians out of harm's way. It's part of Hamas's effort to keep them in harm's way. But we've so far succeeded, and we're going to succeed again. Those who say that under no circumstances should we enter Rafa are basically saying, lose the war, keep Hamas there. And Hamas has promised to do the October 7th massacre over and over and over again.
Well, you can kill them as a
That was a little edit there, just full disclosure, because I skipped to a later part in the interview. Just one last part I want to play, and then we'll move on.
Force, but how do you kill the idea of a resistance as long as there is occupation? At the end of this process, after this is done, after you've eliminated the military threat, doesn't there need to be a Palestinian state?
everybody who talks about a two-state solution, well, I ask, what do you mean by that? Should the Palestinians have an army? Should they have? Can they sign a military pact with Iran? Can they
yes,
import
that's what a state
rockets
is.
from North Korea and other deadly weapons? Should they continue to educate their children for terrorism and annihilation? Of course, you'd say, of course not. And the substance, I've always said, in a future peace agreement, which everybody agrees is far off, I think the Palestinians should have the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten Israel. And the most important power that has to remain in Israel's hands is overriding security control in the area west of the Jordan. That includes Gaza. Otherwise, history has shown terrorism comes back, and we don't want terrorism to come back.
Okay, so you just heard it there. He is not interested in any kind of two-state solution. So can we stop masturbating and talk about, well, we need to work towards a two-state solution? That is not going to happen. You just heard it right there. You heard it right there. They are never going to agree to that. Now you say, well, Keaton, they're never going to agree to a one-state solution. At this point, there is no solution. At this point, the world has failed this issue. And you can't tell me that a two-state solution is possible as long as Netanyahu and his party are in power. He's not going to allow it. He just said, well, should they be allowed to have an army? Well, yeah, that's what statehood is. That's what statehood is. That's what sovereignty is.
They
are not going to allow for that.
You know, I mentioned I was on a show, and somebody else just mentioned this too in the live stream chat. I think it's Tim Buck2 who says, who's next after the Palestinians? And if I was Jordan, if I was Syria, if I was Lebanon, if I was Egypt, I would be very concerned about overall Israel's next actions, because this unchecked destruction of Gaza
Well, they're bombing Syria already.
Yeah,
they bombed Lebanon already.
Yeah, they're doing all that. But I mean, eventually, this whole thing with Gaza is going to wind down eventually. But at least according to Netanyahu, the war is going to still go on until 2025. I mean, that's what he's saying. So, in other words, we're seeing more military action taking place. So, if the people of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, everywhere else are just watching this, they're next, or they are already next. And the people of West Bank, we've seen so many of these farms and villages being raided by settlers who are going in to take their land, and the destruction of their crops and their livelihoods. This, you have to call this for what this is. This is on par with everything we would see from the Third Reich and what they were doing. So in other words, if Hitler were ever to come back from the dead, I think the first thing he'd do is like, hey, I didn't know I left such a good impression for the Israelis. I didn't know I impressed you guys so much.
Well, that's the tragedy. That's the tragedy. And as a Jewish guy, and as Russell says this too, as Jews, it's very tragic to see that the victims of Nazi Germany just went on to oppress people, much in the same way that they were oppressed themselves. And no, that is not an overstatement. If this is not a genocide, what is? This raid on Rafa, I mean, you mentioned earlier, Kit, soon it's going to be 30, 50, 100. It could be 100,000. You have 1.4 million people crammed into a city that was built for 280,000, and even that was overcrowded, with no place to go, no place to hide. You have starvation. You have famine setting in. You have disease. You have the healthcare system totally decimated. It's just, I mean, the worst could be yet to come. That's almost impossible to say, but it's true. So we just showed you two developments from Sunday morning, Super Bowl Sunday morning. Here's Super Bowl Sunday evening. Breaking. Israel is now bombing 1 million civilians trapped in Rafa, the last place of refuge in Gaza. This is the most violent and unprecedented bombardment of Rafa to date. We are witnessing a Holocaust, plain and simple. Yes, Sarah, it is plain and simple. And folks, I can't show you what I want to show you. I shouldn't say want to show you. I don't want to traumatize the audience, but I can't communicate the horror of what happened on Sunday here on YouTube or even on Rumble. We couldn't show some of this stuff. And, I'm not in the business of traumatizing my audience, but if you do want to look at this stuff, it is available on X. You can find it. I can't even recommend that you look at it because it's absolutely gut-wrenching. But we will try and communicate the essence of the story without any of the visceral blood and guts here. This from Al Jazeera. The Israeli government spent millions on a propaganda ad during the Super Bowl. At the same time, it bombarded Rafah and killed at least 67 people. overnight. While Israel aired a propaganda ad, it attacked Rafa, killing at least 67. Israeli warplanes and helicopters bombed Rafa overnight. It's one of the most overcrowded places in the world. Palestinians called it a night full of horror. It was the worst night since we arrived in Rafa last month. Death was so near as shells and missiles landed 200 meters from our tent camp. That was a Palestinian father of 6 giving that testimony to Reuters. Approximately 1.4 million Palestinians were pushed into Rafah after relentless Israeli attacks. Israel promised Palestinians safety in southern Gaza, but then they bombed them anyway. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue with a ground invasion in Rafah. The UN said this could amount to war crimes.
Oh, wow. The UN said it could. It could. It is.
I wanted to feature this tweet here from Andrew Tate, friend of show Andrew Tate. Haha, just kidding.
Andrew Tate, huh?
But he tweeted about the Super Bowl, didn't watch it, don't know what happened, don't give a fuck. See something on Twitter about Taylor with a beer and it being rigged, blah, blah. They are blowing children to pieces in Gaza. 3-year-old girls are buried under rubble and being recovered missing their limbs. And they did it while you watch that shit. You're complicit. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? I mean, no fan of Andrew Tate, but when you're right, you're right. That's an old Jewish phrase.
I'll listen. I will take anyone that is willing right now to call out the war crimes that Israel is committing. I'm going to say that again. These are war crimes. These are genocidal actions that are taking place. People are dying, men, women, and children. And yet I remember all these Hollywood movies watching, growing up as a kid, where the U.S. were the good guys, and we'll make sure that this doesn't happen. And if there's a war taking place and there's a bad tyrant hurting innocent people, that we're going to do the right thing. And we're witnessing a war crime, and we're not doing anything. Nope. We're right here, just sitting down, being complicit. Our government leaders not doing anything. Our military not doing anything. Everyone is just kind of like, okay, maybe this will keep on playing out. We'll let this play out just a little bit longer, as the death toll keeps rising up and higher and higher. I mean, these numbers, these people, anyone that survives this horrific conflict in Gaza, they're going to remember who did this to them. They're going to remember the lost loved ones that they knew. And all what we are witnessing here is laying the foundations for the next war, for the next conflict. There will not be peace in our time. And as much as I hate saying that, because I do believe in a better future, that we should fight for a better future, after this conflict, how can there be peace? How could it be a 2-state solution, a 1-state solution? How could it be any solution whatsoever but endless hatred? Whatever hope of some kind of peace to ever exist. It died a long time ago, but it's official. Wipe it off. Don't even bring it up, because there's no way any rational human being can come up with a peace treaty or a solution for everlasting peace in that region. It is impossible.
No, there's no reconciliation for this. There could be justice potentially, but there's no way to reconcile this. I mean, it's horrible. And, I think it is good that Andrew Tate
I'll take anyone.
This message because,
I'll take anyone.
Look, these alpha types, they have this reputation for being very violent and forceful and merciless. But it's good that he expressed that sentiment. He's obviously got a huge following that had 7.2 million views, and so as you said, we'll take it. Here's the morning after. Here's John Kirby asked about what happened. About, hey, are these messages getting through to Netanyahu, these warnings about what you shouldn't do?
No.
I know you can't give specifics about consequences, but I mean, would the United States policy change under any circumstances? You talk about an obligation to protect civilians. The president has talked about over-the-top, indiscriminate bombings. Is there anything, would there be any consequences? Would the U.S. policy change, or is it support no matter what?
I just won't get ahead of where we are right now, and I'm certainly not going to engage hypotheticals. We want to make sure Israel can continue to defend itself. We want to make sure that humanitarian assistance continues to flow to the people of Gaza, and by no means has there been enough. There needs to be more. And we want to get all those hostages home. We believe that the best way to accomplish those 3 goals is to get an extended pause in place, to bring the violence down, to get people out and get aid in. And that's what we're focused on. And I get the thrust of the question. I'm just not going to engage in hypotheticals about changes in policy.
There's nothing hypothetical about it. There's nothing hypothetical about it. You give a warning. Benjamin Netanyahu tells you to go fuck yourself. Are there going to be consequences or not? That's the furthest from a hypothetical there is.
Exactly. And the thing is, this isn't the only group that Benjamin Netanyahu is ignoring. He not only is ignoring the U.S., he's ignoring the UN. He's ignoring every single envoy that's trying to tell him to do a ceasefire to stop this horrific conflict. So what does that tell you? Netanyahu knows what he's doing. He knows the orders that he's giving to his generals, and in turn, those generals are telling their commanders and the rest of their troops to continue on operations as they are, including those horrific cringe TikToks of Israeli soldiers dancing and singing, putting on funny little costumes and doing these ridiculous dance numbers, all the while they are shelling or either that, ordering airstrikes on men, women, and children, civilians, first responders. People are trying to get people trapped underneath the rubble of these these buildings. So if he's saying F you, it's not hypothetical. He's saying F you. If somebody keeps on ignoring you, it means that they don't respect you. If they keep on dismissing you, it means that they don't acknowledge anything about you. So Biden, you're the president of the United States, and another leader does not recognize your authority. And anyone that you send from your administration, when you say stop, that is your voice, and they are giving a middle finger to your representatives of your administration. You are not showing American strength. What you are showing is being submissive, Biden and Democrats. So what more can you say? We are. Last I checked, we are a global superpower. We are giving them money. What's preventing us from doing that? Oh, right, AIPAC. What's preventing us from actually lifting up a single finger? AIPAC, because our politicians are bought.
Well, there's one piece of this that we have yet to tell. The end chapter of the Super Bowl massacre story, because I mentioned at the beginning of this segment that the Kansas City Chiefs did win. Taylor Swift's boyfriend did win. And Joe Biden thought it was a good idea, or I stand corrected. Not Joe Biden. One of Joe Biden's aides. Joe Biden was probably fast asleep by this point.
Please don't.
Somebody on Joe Biden's team thought it was a good idea to declare a culture war victory by tweeting the following: as a massacre was being done in our name and with our money and weapons, just like we drew it up. What a time to bring back the Dark Brandon meme. I know you didn't necessarily mean it that way, but wow, you talk about tone deaf. I mean, that is just incredible. Just like we drew it up. This was even too much for Jezebel. Jezebel. You know you're in trouble, Democrats, when you've lost Jezebel. This is a link that they posted.
I thought they were going out of business, Jezebel. I thought they were
too, actually. You know, come to think of it, yeah, you're right about that. I didn't follow up on that, but this is from the outlet, so maybe they got bailed out by somebody. Who knows?
Okay.
What liberal politicians can't seem to grasp is that literally no one is asking for funny, terminally online politicians. We're begging for a fucking ceasefire. The embarrassing attempts at comedy we're getting instead are just gross and insulting. Absolutely. Good on Jezebel. Never thought I'd utter that sentence, but I'm forced to. Our friend Nick at RBN says, wild thing to post as Israel is committing a massacre right now. Look at that. This is as of this morning. I think I pulled the tweet, or maybe last night. 96,000 likes. I think it's up over 97,000 now. I didn't get the number of likes on Biden's tweet, but Biden had about 500,000 likes. So Nick did pretty well. I mean, look, you can't ratio the president. The president just has too much reach, right? He has too many followers, and too many bots that are automated to like everything that comes out of the POTUS account. But to get 20% of the president's like total, 100,000 likes, pretty well done by Nick Cruz. That's as close to ratioing the president as you can come, I think. Danny Haifong says, wow, Israel's committing a genocide right now, and you post this? Sick indeed. Christian Smalls A labor leader who has not endorsed Joe Biden, unlike Sean Fain, who said he was against genocide and then I guess apparently got over it. Chris Small says, don't let this post go over your head. Genocide Joe has to go. So there you have it. One of the most disgraceful days in modern American history. Super Bowl Sunday. Morning of, we warn him, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, do it, but be careful. He goes on TV. He tells a Sunday morning news audience, yeah, the president, he can fuck himself. I don't know what he means by that. We're going to do whatever we want. Then they do it. Then they blow children. I mean, look, the photo that went mega viral, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I
that
do.
Little
I
girl
know. Yeah.
dangling from a building with no legs.
Yeah.
I mean, just horrible while we're all watching
football,
our circus, and eating our bread and circuses and mass murder, an all-American evening.
We will. I don't think we will end it with a violent fall like the Romans. We're going to end it with the stagnant death of the Byzantians. We will become Constantinople. That's what will become of us. A stagnant, slow decline of a nation that is forever indebted because of war, bailing out banks, corrupt politicians, and our actions, or the actions of our politicians, will be something that we as citizens will have to pay for because of these heartless sociopathic beings that claim to be human. And I'm going to say that again because I don't view these politicians as human. To be human, you have to feel something. To be human, you have to show real empathy. To be a human, you have to take the initiative and the courageous step forward to fight for the right thing, which none of these people in Washington, D.C. are truly capable of. Are they human? No, they're not. No one in D.C. is human being at all. And
not in any meaningful sense.
And when we have a world leader, or at least another leader, telling our president that his actions or his voice of concern are indifferent, that is a clear sign that this person doesn't respect us as a superpower. This person doesn't respect us as a nation, and that our leader is being spat upon. So Democrats, if this is your old dog that you want to keep on portraying and saying is still competent, fine. But he was just given a middle finger all the while the genocide is happening. So all this talk, Democrats, about, or use it at Vote Blue, no matter who, about telling us that we have to vote Democrat because Trump's an evil bad guy and he's Hitler 2.0. Our boy, or your boy, old man Biden, allows a genocide to happen under his watch. So what is the incentive for me to even give a damn about a fear of a Trump presidency? I know what to expect from Trump. At least it's more transparent than all the lies from the Democrats.
Well said. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Used to travel to Chicago on business during the summer in the 80s when the Bears and Bulls were kicking it. It was great. Fun. Thank you, Sparky. Orwellian 1984. God bless you, Kitten Keaton. God bless you, Orwellian 1984.
God bless you, too.
You give me hope that there is still some sort of sanity in this effed up world. Thank you, Orwellian. 007 Angelo, was Bell at Biden's kibbutz? Yeah, Biden's kibbutz. Good one. Tusker, thanks for the $5. The squad is going to keep their powder dry even after they get voted out of office. Yes, all of them are utter failures, indeed. Hey, Keaton, will you be needing a wet nurse in July? No, Amanda's a lactation consultant. She knows what she's doing. But boobies to knees, I see where you're going. Are you a lactation consultant as well with a screen name like that? I think you might be. But yes, my wife is a lactation consultant. That's what she does professionally. But thank you for that. Keaton, great points. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate it.
I wasn't prepared for that.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that. Lactation expert. Okay, hey, great. I didn't know that was a profession. Great, lactation expert. So
it is indeed. Yahoo said to Biden, "Go get your fucking shine box." Yep, absolutely. BB and Israel are like the Martians in the movie Mars Attack, saying we come in peace right before they annihilate everyone with their ray guns. Yes, indeed. Yeah, like the handshake, right? He shakes Jack Nicholson's hand as a peace offering, and then the hand wiggles out and goes right through his heart.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah, get along. Yeah. I remember really wanting to see that movie as a kid, and I was disappointed when I saw it only because it had all these great actors in it, but they all had basically cameos, right? Like none of them were in it that long because they all died pretty quickly.
I loved it.
But it was still a fun movie, yeah.
I had a friend who actually had the original card collection of Mars Attacks, and wow, for a time that came out, you could get away with a lot of stuff that I don't think you could get away with now. I mean, the aliens were far more brutal in the trading cards than in the movie.
In the movie, yeah, it was a PG-13 movie. It wasn't an R movie. That's right.
Yeah.
Where's Skell? Thanks for the $5. The phony empathy for the Palestinians is the worst part. At least Rappaport's an honest POS. Yeah, no, indeed. I hear you, my friend. RB Ham, thanks for the $10. So sick of Hamas described as terrorists. We're the French resistance terrorists. How about the Viet Cong? What about the ANC? Or the Jews who rose up in the Warsaw Ghetto terrorists? Well, Norm Finkelstein described it as a prison revolt, as a slave revolt. And, look, we talked about this as soon as it happened. How do you ascribe moral agency to a people with no kind of political power or autonomy, right? Like, is it terrible that children are killed? Of course it's terrible, but how could you pass moral judgment on a population that's given no moral agency? Nat Turner, when he rebelled against his masters, he killed kids. I mean, and that's horrible. Like, no one ever wants to see children killed. Whose fault is that, though? Is that Nat Turner's fault, or is it his master's fault for abusing him and brutalizing him?
People have a breaking point.
Exactly.
And the thing is, if you have the jackboot on your neck, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to like your oppressor? No, you're going to stand up and push back.
Yeah. And that, that doesn't mean we like it. Like, I don't celebrate or glorify violence against anybody, but we did a whole thing on that as soon as this happened, and that stream is still up. So I encourage you to go watch that. And you can find the date pretty easily. I think that was the day after. I think it was the 8th or the 9th that we were on. No, I think it was the 9th. Tavis Gibbons, thanks for the $4.99. Great show, Keaton and Kit. I think you wore that shirt Sunday. Me? I wore another shirt Sunday. This is a black and white plaid. Sunday I had my blue and white plaid. But they probably look similar in this light. Thank you. Sparky, thanks for the $2. Build a better world with bricks. Thank you, Sparky. And everyone thinks the Russians are the baddies, says Scott George. They are amateurs compared to Israel. Yes, no doubt about that. Thank you very much. Okay, we got a lot of Rumble rants here as well. Bibi, who is an Ashken Netanyahu, I like that, Jew, Ashkenazi, stated they had destroyed 18 battalions of Hamas, 1,000 soldiers per battalion, 18,000. So according to Bibi, they are a moral army. Yeah, no, I mean, his numbers are just, it's a joke, obviously. Camden, phoned in their tent, no power, water, gas, or food. You want them to look up to see your flyer. Yeah, instead of ducking and running because of bombs.
Yeah, because if something's being dropped, what are you going to look up? No, you're gonna run.
Yeah,
anyone.
They're not making calls anymore. I mean, the idea that they're making phone calls now. Phone calls to who? The people who are living in tents. Exactly like you said. Ricky Dickey, thanks for the $5. Well, the statistics are right if you take into account that every one of them is Hamas, according to Israel. Kid, you are the man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But everyone, keep speaking out.
Indeed. Nazi Yahoo sounds like a professional assassin. Stone Cold. Thank you, Don Sean Leia. Roachy Boy, thanks for the $1. Contemplate the situation where Gaza, with miles of coastline, is at the whim of a landlocked gateway to UN aid to people who are dying. The world is complicit in the genocide. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Did you hear that story where they wanted to build like some tycoon wanted to build like an artificial island off the coast of Gaza?
No.
Yeah, it was an article from RT. This tycoon, like, again, somehow these rich billionaire type people want to build like a private resort place, be it in the middle of the ocean or somewhere, so them and their fantastic rich friends can be living their best lives. And there's talk of, I guess, once the war is over, build this nice little area so that we can control the coastal line area of Gaza, because they know how to run it better than the people of Gaza, who've never really had the opportunity to really enjoy any kind of normalcy in their lives. Generations living under oppression.
That's right. Let's see here. Excuse me. Okay, we're gonna move on. Folks, this was a conversation between Briahna Joy Gray and Robby Suave on the Hill Rising. This was in response to the Rafa attack, in which Robby thinks certain things about international law and the relevance of international law in a war. Let's take a look at this.
Robby's out of pocket.
Regardless of what you think, I understand, Robby, you're a human being that exists in the world and you're entitled to your perspectives. But frankly, I think it derails the conversation when we're not talking about whether or not the ICJ, which exists and which is a part of a body of international law and treaties that we subscribe to and that we are signatories to in the United States of America, and which Israel is a signatory to, a signatory of the Genocide Convention. They have an obligation under the law not to be killing civilians the way that they're doing. And so the question is whether or not those organizations are going to hold them accountable and whether or not the United States is going to follow its own law, like the lay law, which precludes us from giving money to
our obligation is the defense of
countries that are committing war crimes.
The U.S. government's obligation is to the defense of its citizenry. That's true for Israel as well. And we're not going to international law ourselves into being able to stop terrorist groups that have attacked us.
Wait, what?
Wait,
exactly what I just said.
What?
Oh my
God.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
All she could say is, wait, what?
Where the fuck do you get the balls?
Can you believe that?
This is priceless. I'm sorry. I have a lot of respect for Briahna. Right there. Perfect. She's like, wait, what'd you say? Because
Wait, what? Let's listen to this again.
Government's obligation is to the defense of its citizenry. That's true for Israel as well. And we're not going to international law ourselves into being able to stop terrorist groups that have attacked us.
Wait, what?
Exactly what I just said. International law only constrains state actors from defeating terrorist groups when they're attacked. What good is international law?
What are you talking about? Why are you just saying that that's what international law does?
I'm saying we shouldn't. I'm saying this is why we're ignoring it.
Oh, no, Robby, you need to have a Snickers bar every day when you go on the show because you're not thinking straight, man. If you're operating under an empty stomach, baby, honey, you got to stop.
Oh, my God. One more time. I'm sorry, folks. One more time.
No, obligation is to the defense of its citizenry.
Gotcha.
That's true for Israel as well.
Okay.
And we're not going to international law ourselves into being able to stop terrorist groups that have attacked us.
Fucking balls
Wait,
on this
what?
motherfucker.
Exactly what I just said.
Wait, what?
International law only constrains state actors from defeating terrorist groups when they're attacked. What good is international law?
What are you talking about? Why are you just saying that that's what international law does?
I'm saying we shouldn't. I'm saying this is why we're ignoring it.
No. It's not why we're ignoring it. We're ignoring it because, as our politicians have said repeatedly, they see Israel as a strategic advantage for us in the Middle East, and so we're going to look the other way as they massacre tens of thousands of civilians with our tax dollars and with our bombs.
Yes.
If you view... Sorry, go ahead, kid.
I mean, Robby, seriously, you got the smug look like, well, you might have brought in facts, but I have my opinions and feelings. Like, seriously, Robby, come on, dude. Stop it. Holy cow, the guy actually had the audacity to say that.
It's just, I mean, this guy, he outdoes himself pretty often nowadays. Like, it's amazing how, like, he will one-up the last dumb shit that he said a few days ago with something even dumber. It seems like every week the guy just, like, has a new low that he's able to sink to. If you don't believe in restraint in combat, this is what Nick says, and he's absolutely right. The word for you is terrorist. You are a terrorist if you do not believe in the idea of restraint in war. So international law does not prevent countries from defending themselves against terrorism. International law is what prevents countries from committing acts of terrorism. Because if you do not believe that you ought to be restrained by any desire, or if not desire, imperative to minimize civilian casualties, then how are you not a terrorist yourself? I'm not saying he is a literal terrorist. He's not a violent man himself, but he is espousing terrorist ideology. That's exactly what that is. It's exactly what that is. There's no other word for it. I mean, the only thing she could do there is say, wait, what?
Oh, I mean, he does realize that he's talking to a professional lawyer here. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to be touting international law, and she understands, the process of the legal system, not only in this country, but also this is her job. She talks about the news and journalism and so much more. The fact he's going to bring that up live on air and just smugly stay. Did you just find something online that sounded cool and smart? Did you find some Reddit post and decide to spew it out, Robby? Because if you did, you need to take 2 steps back, buddy, because you just embarrass yourself again, like how he always has. I mean, but then again, he's probably thinking, I don't give an F, Bree. Don't think we forgot that, Robby. Don't think we forgot how you swore at her.
Yeah, I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. Folks, we have one more segment that we're going to do, and then we are going to be ending the show and doing our post-show Q&A over on Rumble. So our producer Jake created this really handy redirect link. So if you go to everybody on YouTube, if you go to dodissidents.com/Rumble, put that in your URL, that takes you to this stream over on Rumble. So be ready to make that switch in a few minutes, because we do have one more segment on the evening. But we do have one more segment on the evening, which we're going to get to in just a moment. We're going to take a few super chats first. Janice Anderson, thanks for the $9.99. Move Israel to Germany and Ukraine. Yeah, exactly. U.S., UK, NATO, and Israel should pay Palestine trillions in reparations. People of Palestine should never have been expected to pay for the crimes of Europe. Exactly. You basically made a bunch of Arab people pay for the crimes of the Nazis. Absolutely. It's racist, and it's very, very... The whole concept is just outrageously racist. Vegan Goddess Q U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday. Indeed. Candon, thanks for the $1. Ilan Pape's book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, details where a lot of the Zionists came from. Germany was transferring them from 1933 to 39. The Sephardic Jews stayed in Europe, and not all Jews are Zionists, not all Zionists are Jews, e.g. Joe Biden. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Infrared, thank you. Hey, congrats on hitting 40K. Such a meteoric rise since I started watching at 10K.
Congratulations.
For which I take all the credit for. Cheers. Thank you, Infrared, and thank you, Kit. Okay, laugh. Briahna has suave and leg lock around the throat. Yeah, no, that was just absolutely brutal. Folks, we have one more segment to do. I know this show got pretty dark there for a while because we had to cover the horrible events of Sunday, but I do want to end on a somewhat hopeful note, at least. So here's some news out of the Netherlands. Dutch court orders halt to export of F-35 jet parts to Israel. From Reuters. A Dutch appeals court on Monday ordered the government to block all exports of F-35 fighter jet parts to Israel over concerns they were being used in violations of international law during Israel's Gaza offensive. It said the state had to comply with the order within 7 days and dismissed a request by government lawyers to suspend the order pending an appeal to the Supreme Court. Quote, it is undeniable that there is a clear risk the exported F-35 parts are used in serious violations of international humanitarian law, the court said. The government said it would file an appeal at the Supreme Court as it said the order had crossed the state's responsibility to formulate its own foreign policy. Quote, the delivery of U.S. F-35 parts to Israel, in our view, is not unjustified, Trade Minister Jeffrey von Leeuwen said. He said the F-35s were crucial for Israel's security and its ability to protect itself from threats in the region, for example, from Iran, Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon. Van Leeuwen said it was too early to say what effect the verdict would have on Israel. We are part of a big consortium of countries that are also working together with Israel. We will talk to partners how to deal with this. The decision to appeal was unrelated to the very concerning situation in Gaza, he added. Israeli government spokesperson Ilan Levy could not comment on the case specifically, but said Israel expects allies to stand firmly by our side as we fight to bring Hamas to justice in the wake of the October 7th massacre. In a separate legal case in January, the UN's top court, the ICJ, ordered Israel to take action to prevent acts of genocide in its war against Hamas. The ruling prompted renewed calls by human rights groups to ban weapons exports to Israel. The case against the Dutch government was brought by several human rights groups, including the Dutch affiliate of Oxfam last December. So they got this court order, and this might have something to do with the fact that Nicaragua named the Netherlands as one of 4 countries that they considered complicit in enabling Israel's genocide against Gaza. They brought that court to the ICJ. So this action could be a response to that, to sort of bring the Dutch government under control or perhaps in compliance with international law. But the court wasn't the only entity to take action. Here is a pretty epic protest action at a Dutch airport, and I thought this would be a good way to wrap up the stream, because this is how it's done, folks. They took over the PA system at the airport and then littered the airport with ceasefire flyers.
Beste reizigers, helaas moeten wij u meedelen dat u betrokken bent bij genocide. De Nederlandse regering gebruikt uw stem en uw belastinggeld om Israël militair, politiek en economisch te steunen bij de vernietiging van Gaza en haar bevolking. Zo weigert Nederland om te vragen om een wapenstilstand.
Beautiful.
Daarnaast doet uw regering er alles aan om Israël in de VN te beschermen tegen sancties. Ook in de Tweede Kamer staat men aan de kant van genocide. Een meerderheid van het Nederlandse parlement heeft gestemd om de uitspraak van het ICJ naast zich neer te leggen.
Wow.
Nederland levert ook onderdelen voor de F-35-bommers die dood en verderf zaaien in Gaza. Achter gesloten deuren riep minister-president Rutte:
Wat kunnen we zeggen zodat het lijkt alsof Israël geen oorlogsmisdaden begaat?
Het wordt tijd om de waarheid onder ogen te zien. Nederland staat weer aan de verkeerde kant van de geschiedenis. Het wordt tijd om je uit te spreken. Toon lef. Laat Gaza niet in de steek.
That's how it's done.
Glorious.
I stand corrected. I believe this is a train station, not an airport. Sorry, I misspoke there. But
That's fine.
The point remains.
Great.
Yeah. Bravo.
It's about time. We need to see more of that here, not only in this country, but worldwide. Stop the genocides. Call for a ceasefire. Everyone keep on speaking out.
Indeed. That is how it's done, for sure. And like I said, I think the fact that Nicaragua stepped up and brought a case to the ICJ, naming the Dutch as a complicit party, has quite a bit to do with this, not only at the court level, but on the civilian level itself. And for those who are listening on the audio podcast, that was in a foreign language, but the essence of that was some ceasefire protesters took over and said, "We're sorry to inform you that you are involved in genocide. The Dutch government is using your voice and your taxpayer money to give political, financial, and military support to Israel." And so there you have it. Well done. God bless those activists who did that. That was quite the badass thing to do. Roachy boy Robby is the picture-perfect white male equivalent of Barry Weiss's smuggerance, a perfect blend of smug and ignorant. Thank you, Roachy boy. Appreciate that very, very much. All right, folks. Well, that is our main show, but we got some hanging out to do. Kid, are you going to hang out with us for a little while in the Q&A, or are you going to?
Yeah, I can hang out with you for another like 20 minutes or 30. I can hang out for another 20 minutes. Yeah, definitely.
All right, beautiful.
Why not?
Beautiful. Well, we are going to end the main show right about now. Like I said, folks, go to dodissidents.com/rumble to continue the party with us. There will be a 5-minute intermission before we do our Q&A. If you're a patron, a paid Substacker, or a paid Locals member, you can call in. Your StreamYard invite link is in the email that you got earlier this afternoon. If you're not a paid member, join up and give us a call, or feel free to watch the show and submit questions in the chat. Just start every chat question with @DoDissidents so that Jake can see them and flag them for us. Another great way to get your question flagged and read is to put a buck or two on it as a Rumble rant. That helps support the show as well. But before we turn the lights out on the main show, Kits, tell everybody where they can find you and Hardlens Media.
Absolutely. So Hardlands Media is live every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, and Kick. We have a Patreon page. We have our Discord page. We have a show on Can TV that airs every Saturday at 10 p.m. Central. So yes, we are on television too. And also, folks, we will be working in collaboration with other content creators covering the DNC convention. More on that. I'm still looking at just getting access to full on getting inside the DNC convention. So more on that later. But I do want to give a huge shout out to Do Dissidents, INN, and everybody else that's been a clear ally to Hardlands Media. We're very grateful for the support and this wonderful community. Saying thank you is never enough. Keaton, you're one of the real ones who I spoke to when everything was kind of going crazy. So I just can't thank you enough for having me co-host this show for you. And Russell, on the off chance you're watching this, you know what, man? Let there be peace between New York and Chicago, but we have to address this New Orleans problem because this is offensive of such a high order. I've never heard of it before.
Well, thank you so much for joining, my friend. Always great to see you, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. We're going to take a quick intermission, close this YouTube stream out, head over to West Berlin, Rumbleland, for our interactive post-show Q&A after-party hangout. We will see you all there in a few minutes. If we don't see you there, we'll see you back on this channel Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Until whenever we see you again, be safe, be well. Thank you very much for tonight. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we will continue over on Rumble. Jake, I'm going to hit the outro, and then you will take us to Rumbleville. Thank you guys very much. We will see you next time. Thanks once again to my good friend Kit Cabello for co-hosting, and we'll see you all in a few minutes.
All the best.
Please clap.